Thank you for dying, now I can finally be with him. I heard her voice before I saw her face. Soft. Relieved. Almost joyful. At first, I thought I was hallucinating again. Coma patients often do, don't they? But the voice grew clearer. Familiar. I turned my head, slowly, painfully, to the crack in the door. The glass was tinted, but not enough to hide her. Sana. My wife. She stood beside my hospital bed. No tears in her eyes. No worry in her voice. Beside her stood Ryan, my childhood friend. His hand was already wrapped around hers. He didn't even try to hide it. Sana gave a light laugh, like they were sharing a private joke. He always suspected, you know, she said, but he never confronted us. Always so trusting. So stupid. My heart stopped. I wanted to scream, to rip out the IVs, to tell them I was alive, awake, watching. But my voice was gone. My body, weak. And so I just stared. This is our chance, she whispered. He's gone now. We can finally live without guilt. That's when Ryan leaned in and said the words that crushed what little strength I had left. Let's go before the doctors find out he's still breathing. They knew. They knew I was alive. And they left anyway. For 8 years, I thought I had everything a man could ask for. A stable career. A beautiful wife. And a best friend who felt more like a brother. My name is Zayan. I'm 33 years old, and for most of my adult life, I lived believing I had built a home with love and loyalty at its core. Sana and I met during our university years. She was the kind of woman you couldn't help but notice, sharp eyes, even sharper wit, with a smile that could melt any bad day. She wanted to be a writer back then. I was studying architecture. We crossed paths in a coffee shop on campus, both reaching for the same blueberry muffin. Classic, right? We dated for 3 years before I proposed under the stars on her favorite hilltop. She said yes through tears. I thought they were happy ones. Our marriage wasn't flashy, but it was full of little moments, the kind you cherish, cooking together on rainy nights, fighting over which movie to watch, waking up tangled in each other's arms. She used to say, "We're not perfect, Zayan, but we're safe. And that's enough." And I believed her. Enter Ryan. He was my best friend since grade school. Grew up 2 houses down. We shared everything, video games, heartbreaks, even our first job after graduation. When Sana and I got married, I asked him to be my best man. He gave a speech so heartfelt it made my mother cry. He was the kind of friend who never left your side. Or so I thought. Sana and Ryan got along naturally, and I never minded. I used to say they were like fire and ice, her intensity balancing out his easygoing charm. We'd often go on double dates when Ryan had someone new, and when he didn't, he'd still tag along like the third wheel we welcomed. I never once doubted them. Never even imagined I should. I was working hard, juggling projects to finally buy us our dream home. I'd leave early, come home late, kiss her forehead as she slept. I thought I was building our future. I didn't realize I was giving them time. Looking back, there were signs. Small ones. Ryan started dropping by even when I wasn't home. Sana changed her perfume, said it was just a phase. She started locking her phone. Said it was because of spam calls. But I trusted them. Because when you love deeply, betrayal doesn't cross your mind. Until you're lying in a hospital bed, barely able to move, and hear your wife say she's grateful you're gone. And the man she says it to is your best friend. 2 weeks before the accident, I had a gut feeling. The kind you try to brush off, but it sits in your chest like wet concrete. Sana had been acting, distant. Not in a dramatic way. Just different. The little things. She stopped waiting up for me. Stopped asking about my day. Her eyes used to light up when I walked through the door, now, they barely flickered. I chalked it up to stress. She said she was working on a manuscript, something new she didn't want to show me yet. It's personal, she said, brushing a loose strand of hair behind her ear. She looked guilty even then. But I trusted her. One Friday night, I got home earlier than usual, rain was pouring, my meeting had been cancelled, and I figured I'd surprise her with her favorite takeout. The house was dark. No music. No sound. I opened the door quietly. Then I heard it, laughter. Sanaa's laugh. Light. Playful. The kind she hadn't shared with me in months. I followed the sound to the living room, expecting maybe she was on a call. But what I saw stopped me cold. Ryan. Sitting on the couch. Sanaa. Curled up beside him, legs touching. A movie played on the TV, but they weren't watching. They were looking at each other. Too close. Too familiar. I stepped back before they saw me. My heart hammered in my chest, and I told myself, no, Zayan. You're overthinking. They've known each other for years. I walked in, pretending nothing was wrong. Didn't expect company, I said, holding up the bag of food with a smile that barely held. Sanaa jumped up too fast. You're home early, she stammered. Ryan's eyes didn't meet mine. Something cracked in me that night. Later, in bed, I asked her casually, you and Ryan seem close these days. She turned her back to me. Don't start, Zayan. He's your friend. Our friend. But her voice was defensive. And her silence after that, louder than any scream. Still, I didn't confront her. I didn't want to believe the truth. Then came the accident. It was raining again. I was on my way to meet a client. Sanaa had been cold that morning, barely said goodbye. My mind was spinning with doubts. I didn't see the truck coming. They said I was lucky to survive. But lying in that hospital bed, hearing them speak like I was already dead. That's when I knew. I hadn't been paranoid. I had been betrayed. By the two people I trusted most in the world. And the worst part? They weren't even sorry. I stared at the ceiling of the recovery room, the beeping of machines my only company. My body refused to move like it used to, but my mind was racing, drowning. They left me for dead. They knew I was alive. And they walked out anyway. I kept asking myself, was it real? Was I dreaming? Maybe my brain was playing tricks on me. I had just come out of a coma, after all. But deep down, I knew. Sanaa's voice, her laugh with him, Ryan's hand in hers, they were too vivid to be imagined. Too cruel to be fake. I didn't press the emergency button. I didn't call for the nurse. I didn't want to be found. Not yet. I needed to think. What hurt more? That they betrayed me? Or that they waited until I was helpless to finally show their true faces? My fists clenched under the blanket. The 4-needle dug into my skin, but I didn't care. Pain was good. Pain meant I was still here. Still breathing. Still capable of revenge. But revenge for what? Love isn't a contract. You can't force someone to stay. But betrayal, that was a different beast. They could have ended it with dignity. She could have told me. He could have respected our history. Instead, they waited for fate to clean their mess. And then thanked it for doing so. Thank you for dying. Her voice echoed over and over in my head. Did she ever love me? Or was I just convenient? A nurse finally noticed I was awake. She gasped and called for the doctor, but I didn't speak. I just stared blankly, nodding as they ran tests, scanned my brain, checked my memory. I gave them what they wanted, coherence. But inside, I was unraveling. Every memory I had with her felt fake now. Her smiles. Her promises. That night she cried in my arms after her mother died. Was Ryan waiting in the shadows even then? The hardest part. I still loved her. I hated myself for it. They moved me to a private ward. I didn't tell them about what I heard. Not yet. I needed to gather myself. Understand. Decide. 2 days later, my sister Aliyah walked in. She cried as soon as she saw me. She didn't know what had happened, not just the accident, but the truth behind it. Sana said you were not going to make it, she whispered, sitting by my side. She visited once. With Ryan. Said goodbye. Then disappeared. Disappeared. She didn't wait. She didn't even check. I stayed silent. Zayan, Aliyah leaned closer. I don't know if this is the right time, but I never liked the way she looked at Ryan. There was something off. I didn't want to believe it either, but I closed my eyes. You were right. Aliyah froze. What? I heard them. I told her everything. From the moment I woke up to the moment they walked away, like I was already ashes in a grave. Her expression turned from horror to rage. She's a monster. And him? After everything you've done for him. I sighed, turning my face to the window. She did me a favor, I said. Zayan. No, really. If that accident hadn't happened, I would have never known. I would have lived in a house built on lies. But what now? She asked gently. That was the question. What now? Do I confront them? Do I scream, expose, burn it all down? Or do I walk away with my silence and dignity, and let them rot in the bed they made? I wasn't ready to decide. Not yet. But one thing was certain. I was no longer the man they thought they had buried. A week after I was discharged from the hospital, I made a decision. Not out of anger. Not even revenge. But for clarity. I needed to see it for myself, with my own eyes. I needed the final nail in the coffin. I moved into a rented apartment under a different name. My recovery was slow, and I still walked with a cane. But I had enough strength to drive. To follow. To uncover. Aliyah helped. She was livid but calm, more protective than I'd ever seen her. She tracked Sana's last few transactions. I used an old mutual contact to check Ryan's office records. They had both taken leaves of absence. For personal reasons. 3 days later, I found out why. They were living together. Not in our old apartment. That place was abandoned like a haunted house. They had moved into a luxury condo downtown. Quiet. Gated. Hidden. I sat in my car across the street, watching like a ghost. I felt like one. Part of me still believed this wasn't real. That somehow, I was the one at fault. That maybe I had driven her away. But then I saw them. Sana stepped out, laughing, her hand in Ryan's. She looked younger, lighter. As if I'd been the weight holding her down. Ryan leaned over and kissed her cheek. And then, he knelt down. With a ring. I froze. In broad daylight, where anyone could see, where their guilt should have stopped them, he proposed. And she said yes. There it was. No mourning. No hesitation. She didn't even wear black. I clenched the steering wheel, knuckles white. My heart wasn't breaking anymore, it was hardening. But the real twist came when I followed her later that evening. She left alone, dressed in casual clothes, no makeup. She didn't take her car. She boarded a local bus. Looked over her shoulder a few times like someone hiding from guilt. I followed. And she stopped at a cemetery. Why would she come here? She moved through the graves like she knew them. As if she'd been coming here every week. And then she stopped. In front of my tombstone. I stared from behind a tree, breath caught in my throat. My name was engraved in stone. Zayan Rahim, beloved husband, loyal friend. Gone too soon, but never forgotten. I almost laughed. She sat by it, lit a candle, and took out a notebook. Her journal. She began to read aloud. I lied to you, Zayan. I lied because I was scared. I didn't think you'd ever understand how lonely I was with you gone all the time. How Ryan made me feel seen. I never wanted it to be this way, but I didn't have the courage to leave you. I waited for something, to end it. And when the accident happened, I thought maybe that was fate. I thought I could finally have a life without guilt. Her voice broke. I visit every week. I talk to you. Because some part of me still loves you. I know I don't deserve peace. But I still come. I stepped back, heart pounding. She had buried me with fake tears and real betrayal. And still visited the grave she created. That wasn't love. That was guilt. And now, I knew exactly what I had to do next. I walked into their engagement party uninvited. Unannounced. Unwanted. Dressed in a black suit, leaning slightly on my cane, I watched the air freeze the moment I stepped into the hotel ballroom. People gasped. Glasses clinked. A woman dropped her fork. And then, her eyes met mine. Sana turned pale. Her lips parted, but no sound came out. The champagne flute slipped from her hand and shattered on the marble floor. Ryan spun around slowly, as if hoping he was hallucinating. But no. I was very real. Alive. Standing. Staring. Zayan, she whispered, staggering back a step. I smiled. You know, I said calmly, you should really cancel the tombstone. The birth date's correct, but the death part was a little premature. Silence. Dead, suffocating silence. Then murmurs started. People whispered my name. Some looked afraid, like I was a ghost. Others looked, entertained. Ryan finally spoke. How are you? Alive? I cut in. Good question. One I asked myself, lying there in that hospital bed, hearing you both whisper how grateful you were for my death. Sana's knees gave out, and she sank into the nearest chair. You heard us? Every word, I said coldly. Even the part where you said this was your chance to be free. Her eyes welled up with tears. Zayan. I didn't mean it like that. I was confused. We thought you wouldn't wake up. Oh, so that makes it okay. My voice rose. You knew I was breathing. And you still walked away. Holding his hand. People started pulling out phones. Some recording. Others pretending not to. Ryan stepped forward, his voice strained. Listen, man. We didn't plan for this to happen. You're right. I turned to him. You didn't plan it. You waited for it. There's a difference. You didn't push me into that accident, but you sure didn't mind the result. He looked away. Tell me, Ryan, I said bitterly, was this the plan all along? Be the shoulder she cried on until I was gone. Zayan, I loved her. You loved me, too. I roared. At least that's what you said every time you raised a toast in my name. Every time I called you brother. Tears streamed down Sana's face now. Please, stop. I made a mistake. No, Sana, I said, voice suddenly calm. You made a choice. Don't insult me by calling it a mistake. She stood slowly, trembling. Then why are you here? To ruin us. To hurt me back. I took a deep breath. Everyone leaned closer, expecting a slap, a scene, a breakdown. But I just smiled. I came to say thank you. She blinked, stunned. What? Thank you, for letting me go. For breaking the illusion I was too blind to see. I turned to the crowd. Congratulations to the happy couple. They betrayed a husband and a best friend to be together. Let's raise a glass, to honesty. And with that, I walked out. Leaving behind the ruins they built with lies. I walked out of that ballroom with hundreds of eyes burning into my back, and for the first time in weeks, I stood tall. No shame. No bitterness. Just peace. It wasn't the kind of ending I'd imagined. Not the one where I screamed. Not the one where I got revenge. But it was the one I needed. The next morning, my phone was flooded. Missed calls. Messages from people I hadn't heard from in years. Screenshots. Videos. The clip of me crashing their engagement was everywhere, captioned things like, "Back from the dead." Husband interrupts fiancé's proposal to his best friend. I should have been humiliated. But the truth? I didn't care anymore. They deserved the exposure. The shame. The whispers. I didn't need to dirty my hands, they buried themselves. Aliyah came over that afternoon. She hugged me tight without saying a word. "Proud of you," she finally whispered. Not sure if I should feel proud or broken, I muttered. She pulled back, looked at me. "Zayan. You rose from your own ashes. That's not broken. That's reborn." I let those words sink in. Reborn. Maybe that's what this was. A reset. A cruel, painful one, but necessary. 2 weeks later, I moved out of the city. Took a small cottage near the hills, quiet, green, peaceful. It wasn't grand, but it was mine. I started sketching again. Drawing homes I might build one day. Pouring my pain into clean white paper, letting it bleed into something beautiful. One morning, I got a letter. No name. Just handwriting I recognized too well. Sana. Zayan. _ You have every right to hate me. I don't ask for forgiveness, I wouldn't give it to me either. But I wanted you to know something, I did love you. Not perfectly, not always, but truly. _ You were the safest place I ever knew. Maybe that's why I ran, from the weight of being loved so honestly. I know you'll move on. I just hope when you do, it's with someone who sees your worth from the start. I hope she never thanks you for dying. But for living. Sana. I stared at that last line for a long time. I didn't cry. Not anymore. She was right about one thing, I would move on. A few months later, I opened a small design studio. Nothing flashy. But word spread. A client turned into 2, then 5. I hired a team. I smiled again. And then, I met someone. Her name was Meher. She wasn't like Sana. She didn't light up rooms. She didn't need to. Her presence was calm, grounding. She didn't try to impress me, she just showed up. With coffee. With curiosity. With patience. She didn't ask about my past. She let me bring it up when I was ready. And when I finally told her, she didn't pity me. She just said, "Well, they didn't deserve you. But I'm glad you came back. I don't know what the future holds. Love, maybe. Or maybe just healing. But one thing's certain. I'm not the man who begged for loyalty anymore. I'm the man who walked away, when walking away was the bravest thing to do. And as I stand now, by the windows of my studio, watching the sunrise pour gold into the room, I whisper only one thing to myself. Thank you for letting me go. Because sometimes the greatest freedom comes from being broken by the ones you trusted the most.